I have been having panic attacks since I was about 7 years old. I wrote about my anxiety in my college application essay, and I got into 5 of the top universities in this country. Hi everyone. Today's video is going to be very vulnerable. It's going to be, I feel like, the most that I've ever talked about my mental health and my anxiety to anyone. No one knows everything that I'm about to say because I don't think I've ever truly articulated it in this manner that I'm going to in this video. The reason why I'm making this video is because I know that there's so much power in speaking through your experiences, and through YouTube specifically. I've been watching YouTube videos literally since like middle school, since I was 11, and there have been YouTubers that have spoken out about their anxiety, about their mental health. Specifically, Kian Lawley. I used to watch like our Second Life videos, and Kian Lawley spoke out about his anxiety. Zoella, the Dolan twins, and other YouTubers that spoke out about their anxiety, along with like the people who spoke out about being gay and their experiences with that. That also helped me a lot when I was younger, and so I kind of want to be that for other people. And anyways, to get into the video, my name is Tamari Harvey, and I have been having panic attacks since I was about 7 years old. For a while, I didn't know that that wasn't normal. Like, I knew that it wasn't normal, but I didn't know that it was so, like, until I kind of grew up and I heard about people, having their first panic attack stories, like athletes specifically. I'm gonna try to find the specific story that I'm thinking of, but I remember hearing people talk about like, oh, the first time I had a panic attack, and they're like, you're like 40 something years old, and I'm like, what? Like the first time you had a panic attack? Like my first panic attack was when I was 7. Hearing about other people's stories about kind of what's normal, has kind of been like helpful in a way to see like, okay, what I'm dealing with is not normal. Like everybody does not deal with the stuff that I'm dealing with. And that's also something that is very important to teach people, that like sometimes people can make it seem like, oh, everybody goes through that, like depression and negative thoughts. Everybody deals with that. And that's true. I mean, everybody does deal with that, but when you're dealing with it for a chronic period of time, that's when it's excessive. That's when it's like a problem, that's when it's not normal. And I didn't really know that until I kind of grew up. Okay, so first we're going to talk about elementary school. So the very first panic attack that I have memory of happened when I was around 7 years old. So elementary school. It happened when I was at home. I was with my parents and my sisters, I think. We were all in the living room. We were watching a movie together, like a little family day, whatever, watching a movie in the living room. It was all cute. And we were watching Pirates of the Caribbean. And maybe this kind of shows like that a 7-year-old should not be watching the Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know. But I just remember a specific scene where like Jack Sparrow's like on the ship, and there's the barrier type thing, like the railing type thing, and people are like flying off the ship. There's like, it's like a fight scene, it's a real action scene. People are fighting, and there's people getting like cut open and split open and their heads chopped off, and I just remember being there as a child, and for some reason, out of nowhere, my brain tells me, one day all of these people that are sitting with you in this living room right now, they're all gonna die. And not only that, but since you're the youngest of the family, and this is 7-year-old logic, not only that, but since you're the youngest of the family, you're gonna have to watch all of them die. If everybody dies of old age, once again, 7-year-old logic, if everybody dies of old age, it's gonna be your dad, then your mom, then your sister, then your other sister, and then you're gonna have to go to all of their funerals. You're gonna have to watch, like, it's my brain is just feeding me all of these thoughts constant over and over, and it's spiraling. And I have an anxiety attack. I just bust out in tears. I start crying, and I go over to my mom, and she's like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I just remember being like, I don't want everybody to die, and that's mm, that's kind of really what started my fear of death and dying. And my mom was really good at comforting me through that. She um helped calm me down, and my both of my parents have always been there for me throughout my panic attacks and my anxiety attacks throughout my entire life. Like, whenever I've needed them, they have been there for me to calm me down from them, and I've always known that I can go to them for that. And I truly love them so much for that, because my parents have always kind of just been able to help me through that, and I just love them so much for that, because I've encountered so many people that just don't really know, like, they don't know what to do, and it's not their fault. They've never been through that situation. But I don't know. But yeah, that was my first panic attack. And then after that, after I calmed down, it wasn't really discussed again. It was just kind of talked about, I'm sure, but it was like whatever after that. The next story that I remember, so that was an anxiety attack. That's like my thoughts building up, spiraling, and then the attack happens. Now, the next story is going to be about a panic attack. This was kind of what was my first memory of social anxiety. Also, during elementary school, I want to say it was around the same age. I went to like an after school program because my parents had to like work and stuff, and they would come pick me up after school. And I would, be at the after school program doing my homework, doing, playing sports, playing with my friends, whatever. And the first day that I was in the after school program, my sister, my middle sister, she's only 2 years older than me, so we've been really close my entire life. She was with me for like the first part of it because everybody was together, but after that, we split up into our own grades. And so I was by myself. And when I was with my sister, I was fine because I'm with my sister, But then when I went by myself, I remember just feeling like just so alone. Like, I remember seeing like other people playing with their friends and talking to people and laughing and playing, and I didn't know anybody, and it seemed like everybody else knew people or could talk to people and could like make friends and stuff, and I couldn't. And I didn't know how to really talk to people. I didn't really know how, like, I just remember sitting there feeling like just so lost and so alone and so scared and afraid, and I started crying. My counselor, his name is Roderick. He was such a good like person. I want to say he was like a high school student. He was like a teenager at the time, and it was one of those programs where like the high school kids work with like the middle or elementary school, that type of thing. But he was just such a good person to me throughout my entire time there. And through the age of technology, I've tried to find him and I can't. So awkward. But and I feel like that's not weird because you can find anybody on social media, so like I don't care. But he was really nice, and he sat there and he helped calm me down, and he helped just make me feel better, make me feel less alone. And after that, I eventually made friends, of course. um but I just remember breaking down because I felt so different, and I felt confused as to how everybody else could make friends so easy and could talk to everybody else, like talk to their classmates so easy, and I couldn't. And all throughout my life, I've had panic attacks. So, like, after that, I've just had chronic panic attacks and anxiety attacks since then. And I've also had really bad nightmares connected to my anxiety and my fear of death. I'll get into my nightmares in a different video probably, but they were all kind of surrounding the same thing. I'm like being chased, running for my life, and I wake up like right as I'm about to, it's been like that for as long as I can remember. All of my dreams were nightmares, exactly like that. I didn't really have good dreams, I just had those. And as you can imagine, like waking up and going to school after that is hard sometimes, but I've managed to live through it, and I've managed to continue on with my life because I know that I can't just sit there and let it take over my life like that. Okay, now we're on to middle school. Now, middle school, after elementary school, I moved to Texas. Sadly, I prefer Florida over Texas for sure, but I moved to Texas, and not only was I in a completely new state with very new people, I was also starting middle school, which middle school is not a fun place for anyone, I don't think. So, in middle school, I was more of an outcast at first, simply just because I knew no one besides my sister. And, I was like the new girl and in a new place where I didn't really like the place. I was surrounded by white people, where in Florida there were white people, but it was also more like Cuban people, and there were black people too. In Texas, it seemed like it was just white people everywhere. There were Mexicans and a few black people here and there, but it was very different from kind of what I was used to. And at first I didn't entirely, well, I really didn't mind at all. I don't know, it made me kind of mysterious. Like, I don't know. Like, people wanted to know who I was, but like people knew me, but they didn't really know me. Like, I don't know. But at the same time, like, I just really didn't feel comfortable opening up to anyone. And I did make friends in middle school, and there were people who were interested in the same things that I was interested in, which really helped me find like it really helped me feel less alone in middle school when I found people who had similar interests as me. And eventually I joined the basketball team, and I made a lot of my friends through the basketball team that kind of also carried over into high school as well. And yeah, so friends in middle school wasn't really a problem, but my social anxiety most definitely was. I remember being in class, and say I had like a snack in class, and I was eating and I was done with it, and I had trash. Usually, you would get up and walk over to the trash can and throw your trash away, right? No. Me, with social anxiety, I'm sitting there just thinking about throwing the trash away, thinking about what it would mean to have to get up right now, walk over to the trash, put it in there, walk back. People are going to be looking at me. I I don't want people to look at me. I don't want to have to get up in the middle of class and throw this away. And it's like people would get up and do whatever during class. People would be going absolutely crazy. People would be talking to their friends. People would be getting up for no reason. People would be getting up to throw their trash away. But for some reason, I was so scared to just get up and throw my trash away. And I feel like that situation is just like when I'm talking about it, it's like what? But it's like, yes, like living through that and being there, it's like my chest is tightening, getting shortness of breath, just thinking about it. And my hands are sweating, just thinking about throwing my trash away. You're probably sitting here like, what? Like, that's crazy. I know. Imagine what it feels like to be living it though. Imagine what that feels like. And now I'm sitting here like, what is wrong with me? I can't get up and just throw a piece of trash away. Like, like, it's just very confusing altogether. Even for me, having to live through it is all very confusing, because it's like, growing up, I don't think I've had a very traumatic life. Like, yes, I have trauma, like I feel like everyone does, but I don't feel like I was just so severely traumatized to have all of the anxiety and the depression and the mental health that I had. And that was something else that I had to deal with as well. I kind of compared myself to other people on the internet who would have like depression and things like that, and they would have some severely traumatic stories. stuff that I had never gone through, stuff that I could only imagine going through. Dealing with that has been kind of like a very confusing thing in my life because I'm having all of these feelings and emotions and like going through all of these things but not really having a reason for it. I was still talking about middle school. Middle school is very full of cliques, and I kind of just had to choose where I wanted to be. And at first I kind of just chose this, like, just people that I don't know, that I could just sit with and just say that I'm sitting with. And then eventually I realized, like, I don't really want this. I'm just sitting here because I want to look like I have friends because everybody else has friends. You know, I'm supposed to want friends. I'm supposed to want to be sociable, and I feel like that's a thing about women and girls, and we're programmed to be sociable and to have friends and have social circles and to do all of this, and I just never really wanted that. I only really wanted that because other people had it and because it seemed like what I was supposed to want. But when I sit back and realize I don't think I really wanted that. And after, that stuff, I kind of just went to eating lunch by myself and just sitting by myself, and through that I still made friends eventually, and I still made friends in my own ways, but it was more intentional about the relationships that I had and about the people that I had around me, and I very much liked that. Okay, now we're going to move on to high school and my diagnosis. So, in high school, I still had a lot of social anxiety, of course, but I still wanted to be very social because I wanted to have friends, and I did make friends through the basketball team. And, I did have friends, but I still felt social anxiety. And through the passing periods at high school, I absolutely hated it because I kind of went to a big high school. I think we had like 2,000 students. It's not like a huge high school, but that's pretty big for high school. Passing periods were terrible, and I would be like the first one out of my class as soon as the bell rang, as soon as the bell rang, and I would go straight to the bathroom. And I would just sit there, I would look at myself, I would fix my lip gloss, whatever, but I would really be in the bathroom to avoid everybody in the hallway during passing period. And then when it got to like 1 or 2 minutes left before the next class started, I would go to the next class. And yeah, I would spend most of the passing periods in the bathroom because I did not want to interact with people like that. I didn't want to be bumping into everybody and just being in those crowded areas like that. It was just very overwhelming for me every single time. And there were times where I stood in the hallway to like talk to my friends and talk to people, but I could not help but feeling just overwhelmed by just like everybody around me. Like I avoided it as much as I possibly could. I liked learning. I liked getting an education. That's why I was such a good student, because I would just sit there and learn. I would have all this anxiety, this social anxiety, but I would just want to sit there and learn because I like learning. But when it comes to talking to people, what? Anyways, so when I was 15, my sophomore year of high school, I saw a therapist. This was the first time that I saw a therapist, and the reason why I saw one wasn't really because I felt like I should see one, because my mom kind of felt like I should see one, and she was right. Looking back, I probably should have saw one. I definitely should have. In therapy, I did get diagnosed with severe anxiety and mild depression. Severe anxiety composed of general anxiety disorder, or GAD, panic disorder, and social anxiety. Now, here's the thing about my first time in therapy. Looking back on it, being in therapy that first time was really good for me because it did allow me to get that diagnosis. It allowed me to be like, okay, like this is actually what I'm dealing with. Like, and it did kind of help me deal with some of the negative thought patterns that I had. However, I felt like I was masking so much in the therapy sessions. I barely talked. She would kind of have to pull stuff out of me and get me to talk about stuff, and therefore I really didn't talk about much with her. I just know that I didn't find it helpful, but I also know that therapy is what you kind of put into it, and I know I didn't put much into it as a 15-year-old who didn't really know what she was dealing with at the time. Now, as an adult, I probably should see a therapist at some point, and I probably will. I just haven't gotten around to it at the moment. But I am now starting to believe that a lot of the things that I've been dealing with and stuff that I go through can be tied to other mental health things as well, such as autism or ADHD or BPD, or, there's a lot of letters, and I've come to not really care so much about the diagnosis, but care about like the help behind it. Nowadays, with like the age of technology and stuff, there's so many different resources that you can find about different mental health disorders or illnesses that you can use in your life, even if you don't have those mental health issues or disorders. And I know that a diagnosis can lead to that, and I have been on medication, which whole different video. We're not going to get into medication in this video, but anyways, we're still in high school. Moving to the end of high school, when it came to write college application essays and such and apply for college, I wrote about my anxiety in my college application essay, and I got into 5 of the top universities in this country. I wrote it about anxiety because I think the topic was like write about like a hardship or something that you've had to overcome. They love those topics. They love those. So I wrote about my anxiety, and I just wrote just kind of what I go through. The way that I originally explained it was just explaining kind of how I am in this video, explaining that I have severe anxiety, that I have, a thought that builds upon another thought, that builds upon another thought, and I just have circling thoughts, and I think about every single outcome, every single possibility, anything that can happen before I make a decision. And it's like all of that just immediately kind of plays in my head before I do anything. And it's been something that's been very debilitating for me, but it's also something that I'm learning to, make into something that is great. And when I originally wrote that essay, I used the term severe anxiety because that's what I've been diagnosed with. And my English teacher, thankfully, she told me that she like read my essay with her husband, and they were so touched by it. They were so moved by it. They loved it. And they both were saying there is no way she's labeling this as severe anxiety in this essay. And she was like, say something like a chess game. Like you have a mental chess game going on in your head. You can use that as like your hook. And I was like, huh. And I took that and I ran with it. I can read the college application essay for you if y'all want me to at some point, but I literally turned my anxiety into something amazing. I basically compared myself to a chess master. A lot of the greatest chess masters see the steps like multiple steps before they happen. They see the moves before they even happen. They memorize the boards and the different combinations of what is possible, and they can move accordingly so that they can win, and they can see steps before they even happen. Like, is that not genius? It's just such a comparison. My mind was blown. This is something that I didn't think of. That was my English teacher. Mrs. Abby, that was my English teacher. But I, made the essay. I wrote the essay. I made it come into life. So that was my work. All throughout my life, I've been interested in art. I've been an artist. I am very creative. I make things. I make a lot of things. And that kind of just allowed me to see my anxiety in another light. I've always seen my anxiety as something that I've used to create, but that also allowed me to see my anxiety as just my thought processes and just something that was there to allow me to see through different obstacles in my life, make better decisions. And now into college, I'm still coming to terms with anxiety. I'm still having panic attacks. However, now I am learning to make peace with my anxiety, and I'm learning to make peace with the negative thoughts in my head. And all of my life, I've kind of made peace with that. I've accepted that they're there and that they're always probably going to be there. And that I just kind of have to live with and just observe them as the thoughts that they are, and not allow myself to like spiral on those thoughts. Something else that I've learned with having general and like social anxiety, it's like when my thoughts are constantly spiraling and I feel like I don't have an outlet, I feel like I don't have anyone to talk to, and my social anxiety doesn't help that because it kind of hinders me feeling comfortable enough talking to people like that. You know, having so many thoughts in my brain and not having somewhere to express them, it can leave you feeling very overwhelmed. And I feel like for a lot of my life, because I've dealt with that, I've been someone who has been there for people who just feel alone, who are going through things, who feel like they don't have anyone to talk to. I don't want to say that I've tried to fix people, but I feel like through my anxiety, I've kind of gravitated to them because I don't want people to feel how I felt when I was younger. I don't want people to feel alone and scared within their own brain. And because this is something that's not talked about as much, and you know, it's not in the light as much, I feel like some people will just feel alone. They feel like they're the only person going through this, or they might feel like what they're going through is normal and that, you know, they're not really going through anything, which is a whole problem in itself. But yeah, I think that's all I really want to talk about in this video. This is not going to be the only video where I talk about my anxiety because it's just something that's very prevalent in my life. And I feel like I said earlier in the video, you know, the things that I've been through in my life, the negative things, I feel like they were all just a part of the story, just all building up to, you know, building up who I am, and that they can all be used to help other people in the world and to create light. That's what I believe. So, if you stayed to this part, thank you so much for watching this video. I love you all so much, and please just remember that you are never alone. No matter how much your brain makes you think you are never alone. I love you. Bye.